Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to America's Last Great Places. Today, we're exploring the Carolina Sandhills National Wildlife Refuge, the number 2 rated last great place in the Mid-Atlantic Coastal Plain ecoregion and among the top 500 great places in the lower 48 states. The relatively flat Mid-Atlantic Coastal Plain ecoregion stretches from southeastern Virginia through eastern North Carolina down to Charleston, South Carolina. Covering approximately 45,000 acres in northeastern South Carolina, the Carolina Sandhills National Wildlife Refuge is one of over 560 refuges in the National Wildlife Refuge system. The refuge is an Audubon Important Bird Area and is included in a Nature Conservancy ecoregional priority site. A 9-mile paved wildlife drive leads to several trails in the refuge, as well as to intersections to explore 30 miles of gravel and sand roads. The Longleaf pine wiregrass ecosystem is the characteristic habitat of the refuge. Longleaf pines are identifiable by their long needles in a pom-pom type array and large cones. Wiregrass is the dominant plant in the ground layer. We're hiking in the pine woodlands at Carolina Sandhills National Wildlife Refuge. Longleaf pine woodlands once covered over 90 million acres in the southeastern coastal plain, but today are found in less than 5% of their historic range. Endangered red-cockaded woodpeckers nest in cavities in the older pine trees. The pinelands naturally had low-intensity surface fires every 2 to 4 years. Fish and Wildlife Service now uses controlled burns to restore and maintain the pineland's open condition that's favored by the red-cockaded woodpeckers and other native species. 30 artificial ponds and lakes are managed by the refuge to support wading birds, shorebirds, and waterfowl. A boardwalk leads to an observation platform with an expansive view of one of the refuge's open lakes. Open fields are maintained to support grassland birds and other wildlife. Boggy areas provide breeding habitat for reptile and amphibian species. Several blackwater streams flow on the refuge. These streams support small strings of bottomland hardwoods along their banks, including cypress trees and stands of evergreen shrubs. Their water is stained a dark tea color by tannins and decayed vegetation. Each last great place is evaluated on 7 key factors. They are scored and ranked against thousands of other places both in their ecoregion and across the country. A relatively flat area, the refuge has fairly low landscape diversity. It also has relatively low diversity of ecological systems, but a large occurrence of longleaf pine woodlands. It has an estimated 125 clusters of the endangered red-cockaded woodpecker. It has a low footprint of human impacts from inside and around the refuge. But only fair overall vegetation condition, but its resilience to climate change is highest among all sites in the ecoregions. The Carolina Sandhills National Wildlife Refuge is managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service primarily for biodiversity conservation.